most dangerous should be probably in Russia. When you drive on this Trans-Siberian road, it's only two ways with trucks. The guys don't drink so much Coca-Cola, I think, It's very risky. And you see accidents a lot.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Horsepower Heritage. I'm Maurice Merrick, and greetings to all of you listening from places like Middletown, Ohio, Lake Orion, Michigan, Tonopah, Nevada, Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, Enschede in the Netherlands, and Kuwait City. Lots of new listeners out there, so thanks for being here and helping spread the word about the show. And I want to share a couple things before we get started here. You may have noticed that there wasn't a new episode last week, and that's because Horsepower Heritage has now moved to a bi-weekly schedule. And there are a few reasons for that. For one thing, a lot of you have told me that you're always playing catch-up with new episodes, and that kind of got me thinking that, this might be a fairly common thing among my listeners. So that made me start to consider throttling back a little bit. Last year, I produced 39 episodes and almost 24 hours of content. And the pace of doing a weekly show is pretty frantic. And I really want to do more in-person interviews this year. That's how I've always envisioned the show. It's just better that way, in my opinion. And I've got some really cool episodes planned, which will also be released as full video versions on YouTube. But that also requires much more time to edit. And I think you get the picture. And the other thing is that I have projects in my own garage that I need to be turning wrenches on. And there are only so many hours in the day. You know how that goes. So ultimately, it comes down to finding a different balancing point for the near future, at least. And there's nothing wrong with tweaking things from time to time, right? I know you guys get it. So I'm going to go with a bi-weekly format for now, which will also allow me to get some episodes in the can. And I want to be at least a month ahead of my release schedule, if that makes sense. That's pretty difficult to sustain when you're on a weekly schedule. The future goal is to get back to a weekly show, probably by summertime. We'll see how it goes. But fear not, every other Wednesday, you'll see a new episode pop up on your notifications. And by the way, if you don't have your notifications set up, do that today so you don't miss any of them. And I had 3 great interviews already this week, so there is a lot to look forward to. I can't wait to share it with you. Let me know if you've got any thoughts on all of this. You can go to horsepowerheritage.com and click on the contact button there, shoot me a message, or you can DM me on Instagram, either way. And I always like hearing from you guys. Okay, one more piece of news before we get started, which is that Spotify has added a star rating system to the app. So if you listen to Horsepower Heritage on Spotify, I would love to have you tap that 5-star rating over there. It really helps out the show. All right, well, today we're talking road trips, and I love stories of ordinary people who take old cars or motorcycles on long-distance adventures. I kind of think it's really the only way to go if you're going to go a really long distance, because when you're in a classic car, you become sort of a goodwill ambassador everywhere you go, and it opens so many doors. You make friends you would otherwise have never met, and you have experiences that you don't get in a new car. So you're trading convenience and sometimes mechanical reliability for a much more interesting journey. And my guest today is a great example of what I'm talking about. His name is Philippe Delaporte. Philippe and his 2 sons have driven their 1989 Porsche 928 GT from their home in Paris to places like Tehran, Vladivostok, Tokyo, Anchorage, and many others. In 3 long-distance expeditions since 2011, they've put about 64,000 kilometers on the clock. So if you've ever thought about doing something like this yourself, hopefully you'll get some inspiration listening to Philippe tell his story. And you're also going to pick up some tips too, because there are plenty of pitfalls to avoid along the way. So lots to learn in this one, and that's coming up right after this. Hey everybody, Maurice Merrick here, and I want to tell you what's new at Model Citizen Diecast. First, there's the Porsche 718 Boxster and Cayman in 1/43rd scale. Perfect size for your desktop or your bookshelf. Or how about a Shelby GT350R prototype or a Volvo 850 Turbo Wagon, both in big 1/18th scale. And my listeners get 10% off when you use the code HERITAGE at checkout. Limitations apply. Just go to modelcitizendiecast.com and see what's new. From race cars to street cars and everything in between, it's Model Citizen Diecast. Because your inner child still wants to play with cars. And now, my interview with Philippe Delaporte, right here on Horsepower Heritage.
Maurice?
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
I'm so excited to talk to you finally.
Good, me too. Huh?
So you've driven your 928 GT around the world twice.
Yes, not exactly twice. One total world tour from Paris to New York was the longest trip. But previous this trip, we already made another one, which was not around the world, but it was around Central Asia to very difficult countries. And the last one was last July, was to Iceland. So total is 3 road trips with the same car, but only one was the biggest because, of course, we start from Paris and we arrived in New York with the same car, alone.
Right. So that one was in 2016, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so Paris to effectively Vladivostok and then on to Japan and then to Alaska.
Correct. Yeah.
Down the west coast of the United States, across the entire continent, and then up to New York from Florida.
Yeah. We made this trip in 2 times because I have 2 sons and we decided this trip together. So it was impossible to go all together because it's only 2 seats. So we have decided that one son start from Paris to Tokyo and the other one from Anchorage to New York.
And your sons are Thibault and Baudouin?
Absolutely. Yes, correct.
Okay. All right.
They are 1 year different, so they are very close,
And of course, they're grown men, which is good to have because you don't want to take a child around the world on a trip like this.
I think you can, but sometimes I cross people, going very far with a small bus, with kids. Okay, why not? But it's not my feeling because it's you want to share, the adventure together. If it's the kids, it's just in the car and nothing else. So we were driving 50-50 or so. So that's very important. Huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of logistical reasons why you wouldn't want your only companion to be a kid. But
yeah.
So the 928 wasn't your first time driving these long distances. You did this when you were a young man in a Renault 4, right?
Absolutely. Everything starts with this Renault 4. I keep this car till today, because I got this car when I was student. And we decided with a good friend to start, somewhere in the world with the car in summer during 2 months. It was in 1977. And I was 19, years old. So we start and we went to Iran, and back to France. So it was a really, really an amazing trip because we have so much problem with the car, with everything. But I enjoyed so much. It was really fantastic experience. So my friend said, I will never come back. Okay. And each 2 years, I plan a new trip with the same car. And total was 4 trips. And the last one was really the biggest because it was 4 months through Africa with the car. And back to Europe from Africa with my car on a ship. So it was a fantastic trip. So everything starts with this car because my kids, they know the car very well. And my stories, my pictures. So this is why one day, one of my kids said, oh, Dad, we have to do something together exactly as you do with the car, with the Renault 4. So this is why we have decided, to make a game that's so long time after, because my son was 24 years old for the first trip with the Porsche. And we went to also Central Asia. And we also went back to Iran, but with different road. Longest road because we went from through Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, very difficult place. And but it was also amazing experience with the Renault 4.
Right. Well, now I'm really interested to hear your impressions of Iran, because the first time you went there, it was pre-revolution. So it was a very different country.
Yeah, the Shah was still there.
Yeah.
He was out in 1979, 2 years after. So when we arrived, it was, it was a very poor country in the land, but in the capital, of course, it looks like very modern, because I remember that policemen at that time, they were driving Range Rover, with a ribbon, in Tehran. As when you leave the capital after maybe 50 kilometers, it was like in France in 1910. It was a very poor country with people, with farmers, so still trying to talk with us. They wanted to communicate about, the politics. When the student came, he said, "Okay, I talk with you in English because nobody understands, but it's very difficult countries." He said, "Oh, really?" But my birthday was in Tehran. I was 20 years old in Tehran. We went to a restaurant, only one restaurant during this 2-month trip, So it's a good souvenir. But it was very, a lot of police everywhere. And everybody went, in the big city, went to talk with young students just to explain the conflict, But we understood that it was very risky for them, to do that.
Right. And Tehran in the 70s, 60s and 70s, it was quite westernized with a lot of Western dress, discotheques, all of that. And the Iranian people, I find many Iranian car guys they're very enthusiastic about cars.
A lot of, I think because it's in their culture, and the Shah enjoys so much cars,
Right.
But it was at 1977, after everything, of course, disappeared.
Right. Now, so getting back to the 928, obviously that's a very different car than a Renault 4. A Renault 4 is about as simple as you can get.
Yeah, very simple, because I can, everything on this car. It's a very small engine. The suspension is strong enough, but very comfortable. There is no electronic, there is nothing, but for the first trip in Iran, the Renault 4 was totally as the normal one. I mean, we do not make any special preparation of the car, because we were students. I didn't know anything, so I just take some jerry cans, some tires, and let's go. This is why we have so much problems.
And then the 928 is a very complicated machine.
Yes, it's supposed to be complicated when you talk to the mechanics. The reason why you have to select a very good one. I like many kinds of car, and sometimes some of the guys say, "Oh no, this car I don't want to touch because it's very special, And this is the case of the 928. So first you have to find somebody who knows the car perfectly. I want to be absolutely clear that the guy, I have to trust him. So I want him to be not only professional, but with experience of the 928, because I read a lot of, this car was a dream for me. But when I read, every time they say, "Be careful. This car is very expensive. If you have any problem with the car, you have to be sure that she's perfect, because if somebody is not good, it will cost a lot." And it's very like an engineer car, So we say, okay, if you buy one, be careful. It could be a big problem after.
Well, I know where there is a house near me, and the guy has 6 928s. And they all sit. I've never seen any of them move.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not sure if he has them as parts cars for his one good car or what's going on there. But yeah, so they're famously complicated. And how did you go about finding a good one? It's a 1989, right?
It's 1989. I saw many cars before to buy this one. And when I saw the announce and the picture, I called the guy. I immediately understand the car was in perfect condition, because he told me, "Gentlemen, you will not drive my car, even if you want to buy it, because she's perfect. She was in a magazine 1 year ago. I find, of course, a magazine. I had this magazine at home. I see, of course, so she was like a new one. Really, it was in a perfect condition. I said, okay. I went with my friend, the mechanic guy. He says she's perfect because he tastes some things. You see the invoices, everything. She was in perfect condition.
And how many kilometers did the car have on it when you bought it?
100,000.
Oh, so that's like what, 60,000 miles? And how many kilometers does it have on it now?
Now it's 230,000 kilometers. For the 3 trips, it's corresponding to 64,000 kilometers. For me, it's very important to say I drive 64,000 kilometers with my sons for two trips, the biggest. But it was out of France, so it's good thing. She's
right.
Strong.
But you fell in love with the car when it came out in the late 70s.
Yeah, it was a flash. I saw first in the newspaper and in my city where I was living, west of Paris. In 1978, 1928 was on the street, and I saw this car every day. This car was like a shock, I said, oh my God, I love this car so much. First because of the outside, but when I read about this car, the technology, the big engine in front, the space, enough. It's a big car at that time because the 911 is very small if you compare. So I was really impressed by this car. So I wait a long time before to buy it because I have other priorities. I had the same shock for the Jaguar Mark II. So I bought the Mark II before the 928.
Yeah. And yours is a GT with a 5-speed, a 5-liter V8, right?
Yes.
32 valves.
Exactly. And this one is, the GT is, just for the power, is 330 horsepower.
Yeah.
And the GT was built during only 2 years, 1989 to 91. And it's only mechanic gearbox.
Right.
In comparison with the S4 before and the GTS after. Only the GT during 2 years, she's considered like a little bit sport, model of the 928.
So that simplified things because I know that for example, the automatic transmission was kind of complicated and problematic.
Yeah, that's correct. I have a good friend of me with a GTS automatic, and he has to change the gearbox,
Yeah.
And I think the automatic, if you have to drive the car regularly, if you put the car in your garage for 2 years, it's very bad. When you start, you have problem. I think with the mechanic gearbox, you have no problem. But I'm running the car, I'm driving the car every week. So
right.
That's the problem.
So let's talk about some of the modifications that you had to do. Obviously, the 928 is a grand touring car. It's meant for high speed, long distance cruising.
Yeah.
But you were going on some of the most difficult roads in the world for this trip. So did you start with the suspension? Is that your first?
Yeah, exactly. We start with the suspension, with the height of the car, between the ground and the car. I say we have to be a little bit up, and with the tires also. So we changed the shock absorbers, the spring. It was specific. We can adapt, if we want to be up or low, So first thing, second thing, of course, we put tires M+S, mud and snow. It's a little bit bigger than the original size, not too much because we have not space enough with the car after if you cannot turn the wheel, And then we make a protection under the car. It was very complicated to do because we have to fix this plate of aluminum, 8 millimeters, and going, from the front of the car to the middle of the car. And you have to respect also for the air, going, because if not, the engine should become very hot, So we have to do and to find the good guys to do that because this guy was preparing tracks for Paris-Dakar.
Perfect.
And he was so, he enjoys so much. He said, I saw so much cars, going through Africa, but why are you doing the trip with this kind of car? I love it. So we became still very, very good friends. He called us all along the trip in Kazakhstan, in Iran, because he was a little bit afraid, because he said, you go with a GT car and you are alone with your son. So you are really crazy, but I love it. Yeah.
And then in addition to underbody protection and suspension and tires, you had to put in a roll cage.
Yes, we do that in case of accident. We protect also the light, with very good material. I know the model, it was in stainless steel, it was very, very good quality. You do something perfect, it make a long time to build, the system, to be adapted to the car, because we are still continuing to open and close the lights.
Oh, I thought that you left the lights up the whole time.
Oh, when I drive, because I like it.
Okay.
It looks like the two balls, but it's still going down, and it's still functioning as original one. Huh?
Right.
We also we took two wheels, in case of any puncture. So this is different size. So the biggest is on the top of the car, and one is inside the car. So it took a lot of place, for the small car. This is why one is on the top, outside.
Right. So you reinforced the roof, and then you bolted a large carrier on top of the roof, and then the wheel bolts onto that.
Just imagine that the tires is just put on the roof, nothing else. You cannot see anything. So it's sometimes a problem, because people ask me, hey, guy, you have a wheel on your top. I say, yes, I know. Even policemen, sometimes 3 times in the day, in Paris, people, motorbikes or police, hey, stop, be careful. You have something on I say, I know, don't worry. Okay. So it's very strong, but it's very discreet. You cannot see how the wool is attached on the car, So there is a kind of hat on outside, and it is inside reinforced, so you can check the car by the wheel, no problem.
Wow. Yeah. When I first saw the photos of how you have the tire on the roof, I kind of wondered how you accomplished that myself, because like you say, there's no outward indication of how it's fastened.
Yeah. When you take out the wheel just to clean, you can see the wheel is not touching the roof. It is maybe half millimeter, which is not, it's like original. Just to understand that there is no weight, on the roof of the car. It's only between the support outside and inside. So
right.
It looks like just stuck on the car, but it's not. It's very strong. Yeah?
No, it looks cool. And then what other modifications did you have? We talked about the stone guards for the lights. You had to do some interior modifications for some navigation equipment.
Yes, we took 2 GPS inside, a Garmin for the world, plus another one more technical, but finally we don't use it. It's a kind of GPS, a very big screen, but it's not telling you where you have to go. It's you have to put inside this GPS some maps before starting. And it could be useful in very small place without any road. When you go for off-road, it's very important. Finally, we don't use it because we try to find the roads every time, not going from Mongolia where nobody, we have not a Land Rover or a Land Cruiser, which means we still follow more or less the main road if it's possible. And we have something very, very important in the car. We have a tracker. It's an American tracker, Spot. It's absolutely fantastic because every 10 or 15 minutes, it localizes where you are in the world. And it puts, on the map, your itinerary. So which means my wife, my friends follow exactly where we were sleeping or we were going in the day. It's absolutely amazing. Also, there is a small button, SOS, in case of big trouble. So when you push this button, it calls the police where you are in Kazakhstan or in New York or in Mongolia. You can put it just on the look. You can locate exactly where you are. So it was a free equipment in front of us.
Wow. Yeah, that is very useful. That gives you a little bit of peace of mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. And inside the car also we have a double check of the temperature of the engine. I put a separate, just to check that there is no any trouble with the water. So, but 928 is okay. She's not very hot, even if you drive fast. We have no problem. But it was a double control. I prefer. And also, we take out the seats behind to put first the wheel, to put jerry cans with tanks. We put in the car 4 tanks of 10 liter each, in addition to the 80 liters from origin.
Right. And then a second spare wheel inside the car, and you built a shelf system over the wheel so that you can put your kit inside.
Exactly. Yeah. We have some small boxes in wood just adapted, behind the seats to put a lot of things, like oil, spare parts. The car was totally full, when we started. Of course, we have some, equipment for us also. We have 2 big bags, nothing else, and computer, camera, very important. I have a big Nikon, so I have still, the Nikon with me, with the big zoom, etc. But most important thing for this kind of trip for equipment is to get a picture on the video when you are back. Even if you have any trouble, if there is any fire, you can rebuild the car, but you cannot rebuild your picture. So it was my obsession to get. We came back with 15,000, picture for the world tour. I like to shoot a lot, so I have still some, of course, the original one with a camera, and 2 hard disk, with a copy every night, and in 2 different places of the car, one in my bags, one in the car. So if somebody take my bags in my room of the hotel, we have one in the car. If you go take my camera in the street, I have another in the car also. So it was still, comfortable to say, okay, we have still a copy of the pictures.
And by the way, this is a good time to mention that while people are listening, they can look on your Instagram and see a lot of these photos. And your Instagram account is Philippe Delaporte.
Yeah. During the trip, it was a mistake. My Instagram was not open. I just put all in pictures and information every day, more or less, on our website, which is, it's very easy. Porsche 928 Expedition. You find it immediately. But the Instagram, now I put picture regularly because it's a big community to share your information.
Right. So I'll spell that for people real quick. It's PhilippeDelaporte. Philippe Delaporte.
Absolutely.
Very good. And by the way, I'll put links in the show notes so that people can just click on that while they listen. I think we've kind of covered preparing the car. What about where you're going to sleep, keep clean, change clothes, all of that, because you don't have a lot of cargo space. So you had to pack very wisely.
Well, everything was, organized, of course, to sleep in a hotel every night. We just take with us a minimum, to sleep outside in case of problem. See if we have to sleep close to the car, somewhere. So we have a small tent, etc. But she's still in the car. We don't open it during all the trips.
Let's talk about the Central Asia trip.
Yeah, the first one in 2011. We really went to all the countries: Hungary, Romania, Moldavia, Ukraine. From Ukraine, it was too early to go to Russia. So we went at the border of Chernobyl, for example, just for a picture, with the guards. But you cannot enter. But we have the picture at the border where it's after Chernobyl. And then then to Poland. Then we went to Lithuania, Letonia, and we went at that time to Moscow. And then from Moscow to Central Asia. So we went to Kazakhstan. South Kazakhstan is very strange because it's the place, it's really a desert with the Aral Sea. We went to a very special place also named Baikonur, where, the astronaut go to the
cosmonauts.
So it was Manhunter, it's military place, but we took picture of the car with Baikonur, with some monuments with Gagarin, because it starts from here, It was really, I'm really enjoy all the space, adventure. So, and then we arrive after this Kazakhstan to Uzbekistan, very nice place. Then Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, very difficult place, hard place, very one. It's not easy to cross Turkmenistan. It's not open finally. So we have only a transit visa to go through the country very quickly. And then we arrive in Iran, but east of Iran, it was near Mashhad at the east of the country. So we arrived from the north of Iran to the country. It was funny because when we were in Mashhad on the highway, you see a map, Afghanistan, 80 kilometers. We don't go. And then we go south to Iran, even to Persepolis, where we went already with the Renault 4 with my friends a long time ago. And then back to Europe through north of Iran, Turkey, Bulgaria, and still all this country, and back to France. It was 2 months and a half. It was a long trip, 27 countries total.
Philippe, what time of year did you depart for the Central Asia trip?
Middle of September.
Middle of September, okay.
Very important question you say, because it cannot be too hot or too cold. Because we put out the air condition of the 928. So we have no any more air condition. So, it's old system, which is not good most of the time. So I said, okay, we simplify out. And so it was a good time to do that.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, because as you say, it gets an extreme of temperatures.
Exactly. Could be, if you start maybe 1 month earlier, it could be 40 degrees, And if you start 1 month later, it could be minus 20. But we were not so lucky when we arrived in Turkmenistan, Iran, because the winter was coming 1 month earlier. So we get snow at the border, which was, they stopped all the traffic for all the trucks. And because we have only a transit visa of 3 days, they authorized us to go. And the border is in the mountain. So it was very difficult because the car was totally, crowded with ice. And okay, but we are here. We have to continue.
And by the way, you're self-contained the entire trip, right? You didn't have any official support from Porsche or...
Nothing. Frankly speaking, when we start this first trip, I called Porsche in France. They say, okay, have a good trip. But maybe I tell you, but this is a private trip. I pay myself everything. We have some sticker on the car, but it was still good friends. Motul give us the oil, but everything is paid by ourselves. So I don't ask them anything, but they say, okay, if you have a good picture at the end of the trip, call me. Okay, I will call you. And for the second trip, we were very good condition with Porsche, which is not giving us any support, but we can call them in case of problem. So That was important. And the boss of Porsche France, Marc Ohayoun, became till now a very, very good friend. He is now the boss of Porsche Canada. We are very good friends because he enjoys so much, this kind of trip, adventure, etc. But it was only for the second trip, because when I came back for the first trip, I saw the guy and I show him some pictures. And we were lucky because we crossed with this gentleman. He said, is it your car? Where are you coming from? I said, from Iran. I said, okay, but who organized? Nobody. We were alone. Okay, how many cars? One car, my son and me. Oh my God, it's amazing. And 1 month later, we were in Christophorus magazine, the Porsche magazine. 6 page, we went in the first page. It was fantastic, That was for the first trip. So the contact became very good after,
Right, because you'd proven yourselves.
Yes. For me, it's logical. So much people, are talking, blah, 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 I'm going there. And they're still at home, I want to go. That's why I absolutely respect that. if you do that. Because I can break the gearbox in Poland and came back after 8 days, And if Porsche communicate a lot, that would be stupid, and me too. So we have to do what we want to do, and then we say, look, oh, really, you went there? For example, when we went to Iran in the south, big hotel in Shiraz. Shiraz is close to Persepolis. A guy came to me and said, are you going to visit Porsche in Tehran? I said, Porsche Tehran? I don't know. I have a book. There is no Porsche Tehran. He said, it's a new concession 1 year ago. You have to call them. They will be so happy to see a guy coming. Okay, why not? I sent a mail. They say, please come. It was, my God, they were so happy. They came with TV, with the president of the old car of Iran. They came with 2 old Porsche on tracks to make a show, in the concession. Then we visited the museum of the Shah, with all the cars, amazing car. Alone, they opened the museum for us. It was a private visit, we make shooting, and it was. So I give this information to friends, just to say, just for information, the trip is perfect. We were very well received yesterday, and the guy said, oh, don't forget to call me when you will be back, So it was a proof that we do what we say.
That's great. They rolled out the red carpet for you.
Yeah. In Iran, they do that. It was red.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was funny is to the museum, the Shah gets a Porsche 928. He received this car in 1979. The car is totally new. She has, I think, 80 kilometers because he left. He was sacked at that time. So they were very proud to show me the 928, So we opened everything. It was in automatic gearbox. And I make some jokes, I make a joke. I open the gearbox and I say, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this. Yeah. And, he has so much cars, American cars with gold inside, It's really on the website. When you check the first trip, Iran, you can see a special, report about that. I put a lot of pictures because the cars are really, really fantastic. And it's only 15 or 20% of the total cars. The other cars are totally locked, in a warehouse. You cannot see them. It's only a small part open for the public,
Interesting.
We were, very lucky, to visit this museum alone with all the official people,
Absolutely.
It was, frankly, a real success because even for my son and me, I do the same trip as 40 years ago. We saw so many nice things with a car without any trouble. We have nothing, even with the tires, with the engine, nothing. The car started every morning and we came back to Paris. At that time, we said, okay, we have probably to do another one after because it was not only one. So it was a real success, yeah.
And how did people along the way respond to the car?
Well, the car was, I compare the car as a passport, because people were so happy, even at the border. Most of the time, the custom, the police, they came around the car, took pictures. They asked to open the lights, to close the lights. They took picture of the speed meter, 300 kilometers per hour. They never seen that in Uzbekistan, really. They say 300, oh my God. So picture, everybody. So it was, for us, the car, sometimes people told me before we start, you will have problem with a Porsche in these countries. In fact, no, because it's not a new one. If it was a Cayenne, they say, okay, we can maybe take this Cayenne. What are we doing with a 928? So we have no risk of, but there was so much curious because it's a sport car if you compare with the local cars. And every time the question was, why are you coming in our country with this car? Why? Is it for business? Is it, I say, no, it's just for pleasure. I have a four-wheel drive. It would be more adapted, to the street. But I prefer because so much souvenirs and so much good picture with a car in the desert, it's wow. So the car, it's so funny, even for hotels, for every time when you stop, people came to you, it's a surprise. So it's a good surprise every time.
Now, how did the second trip was in 2016. And of course, your route was different, but how about the experience? What was different about the experience?
Well, it's different because we go very far. When you fix Vladivostok on the map, it's double after Iran. Iran is at the middle, so you feel very far from your home. The other big difference is because we have to ship the car. If you ship a car on the vessel and you do that alone, I mean, you have no any support, you have no organization. It's very hard to do that, and it costs a lot also. So you have to respect the delay because, for example, Vladivostok, you have to deliver the car to the port 3 days before departure. So you cannot play with the dates. If not, you leave you cannot ship your car. So you have still an objective and you have still the timing to respect. But this trip was different because in fact, when we went back, my other son, who do not participate, I proposed him because he enjoy also the mechanics, the cars, etc. I said, oh yes, of course that. So we do not decided at that time to go around the world. We decided to go to Tokyo only, and then to ship the car from Tokyo back to France. And we start to prepare this trip. And my Baudouin, my son, who wants to Iran, one night he said, I would like to come back again. It was so amazing experience. Okay, boy, but we have only 2 places in the car. So very quickly, I like the maps. I say, well, it's so easy from Japan. We go to America, and but not to San Francisco. It's very too close, and I want to drive more in the US. This is why I say no. If we go to US, we go to Alaska. And then we go south, and then we go east, just to make 50-50 on this world tour. This is the reason why we prepared this trip around the world with 2 parts, more or less, with same kilometer,
Right. And on the second leg, the United States, that is when Thibault joined you, right?
No, Thibault joined to Tokyo.
Oh, to Tokyo. Okay.
Because as we went again through Russia, Baudouin already went to Russia. So we went to Russia till Vladivostok, with very, very long trip because this Trans-Siberian highway start not from Moscow like the train, start from St. Petersburg in the north. So we went to St. Petersburg and we drive from St. Petersburg to Vladivostok, which is 11,000 kilometers.
Amazing,
because every 500 kilometers, it's something different. You leave the big city like St. Petersburg, Moscow, and progressively you arrive to the east, and in Moscow they say, guys, east of Russia is not Russia. For us, it's Asia, it's China, it's another country. I say, no, it's the same country, we have the same visa, but you don't know these people, we are so different.
How was the car received in Japan?
To arrive in Japan, we have to ship the car on a ferry between Vladivostok and Sakai Minato. It's a port in Japan close to Hiroshima. And when we disembarked in Japan, it was the birthday of my son, Thibault. He was 30. And custom team came to the car. It's very well organized. But, it's organized from maybe 6 months or so, because all documents must be ready and produced in Japanese, driving license. So you spend 7 hours going from an office to another office. The final control is the custom just to check the car. And 4 people came, the chief with 3 assistants. And the chief came, and I said to my son, maybe in 15 minutes we are free. Maybe not. But he came to me and he said, 2 years ago, I had a 928. And with a smile, and he said, now I have a 911. I said to my son, no problem, I'm sure. They check the car just for pleasure during 10 minutes. But, Japan was a big surprise for us because first you drive in the other way and everybody respect everything. It's not like in France. So we discover really another culture, really. It's people, in Russia, in Kazakhstan, people came to you. Not in Japan, they want to speak, but they think they are not allowed to do that. So they just say hello like this. But even in Porsche concession, we went to change the oil of the engine, in Porsche Hiroshima. That's very funny, I just on the mail, I said, I have the oil with me, but I just want some help to put the car, in the garage just to change. Of course, welcome, etc. So everybody was ready to give some food, some gifts, to clean the car. I say, no, please don't clean the car. It's like this. And so very polite every time, very with big respect of everything.
So Japan sounds like a good experience. And then you make your way to Alaska.
Yes, we left the car in Japan, came back to Paris by plane, and supposed to find our car 1 month later in Anchorage.
Of course, makes sense.
Yeah, but it was on the paper like this, because between Japan and Alaska, there is not direct, maritime, transfer. So we have a total of 3 vessels, one from Japan to Seattle, Seattle to Tacoma, and then Tacoma to Anchorage. So everything was okay till Seattle. He called me. I was in France, of course. He said, Philippe, it's okay. The container arrived, it's discharged, everything is okay. And the day after, he called me, US Customs want to control this container. I said, okay, no problem. He said, no, it's a problem because it's 15 days of formalities before opening the containers. Okay, so we left the second vessel and we left the third vessel. Of course, it's already paid. And he said, now the other problem is after 2 weeks, if everything is okay, there is no any more vessel to arrive at the good time in Alaska because it's a feeder, on this coast. And the next one will arrive in 15th of October. We're supposed to be 1st of September at Anchorage. And we lose 1 month total. So it was a real pressure, because I was still in Paris. They make the inspection. It cost a lot, because I have to pay $1,500 only just to open and close the container. I lose the 2 vessels, so it was maybe 2,000, and then there is no other ship. So I've decided to send the car. I say, okay, restart your trip in Seattle. I say, no, I want to start from Alaska, and not Seattle. New York is okay, it's very nice, but I would prefer to go to Arctic Cycle with the 928. So I don't want to change my plane. So I organized to carry out the car from Seattle to Anchorage by truck, on the truck, So it costs also a lot because it's only one truck for my car, and we organize everything. And then a French guy, we don't need any visa to US. But when you answer to the question, have you been in this country in the last 5 years, including Iran? I say, yes, it was 4 years. So you are not allowed to enter, to US.
Oh.
You need a visa. And so you are in Paris. The car is on the track, going to Alaska. And I have to take, an appointment with the US Embassy in Paris. 3 weeks delay. I say, there is an emergency procedure. I said, we are going around the world. I arrange the thing. I say, it's a kind of experience for Porsche, because I think after we will organize. They say, no, this is not an emergency case. The emergency is only in case of death of your father or mother, something like that. So, okay, I have to wait 3 weeks. And then the guys know everything. He say, have you been to Iran? I say, yes, 4 years and a half before. Okay. And now you go for holidays? I said, not really. I have a car around the world. The same car went to Iran. Now she's in Alaska. I say, have a good trip. And so we arrived in Alaska maybe 29 of September instead of 1st of September.
Yeah, those hassles are so frustrating with, all the geopolitical stuff and customs. And customs is frustrating no matter what you're trying to do. It can never be easy.
Never. It cannot be everything green. Sometimes we have problems. So you have to be ready and to find another solution always. For example, during this trip, in each country, I have the telephone numbers, the mail of the responsible of each French embassy, even in Moldavia, in everywhere. Same for Porsche garage. In case of, I write everything, on paper and computer, on a key, put something. You have to scan all the documents to make copy, to send by mail in case of you lose something. You have still, it's very important to get, a possibility to cover a problem,
Now, when you did the trip in the Renault when you were 19, was there more or less of all of this nonsense?
No, it was less. You take the visa at the border. You arrive. Hi, guys. Oh, hey, my friend, where are you going? I go to your country. Okay, the visa, 20. I say, no, the normal price is 10. Okay, give me 15. And the stamp, and it's okay.
Well, so let's talk about Alaska. And once you got the car to Anchorage by truck, you get through the whole visa process, and then it's finally time to hit the road.
So we start from Anchorage, maybe 1st of October. We went to Fairbanks, and my son said, okay, Dad, we have to continue the trip. Why would you like to go to Arctic Cycle in the north? I said, it's 200 or 300 kilometers, and it will be so fantastic, to cross the Arctic Cycle with the 928. I know the road is not so good, but we can, in the day, we go early in the morning, and they say, yeah, but we lose so much time looking at us. And finally, as you say now, it was one of the best moments, So we do that. We go, we cross Arctic Cycle, make picture quickly, and come back to Fairbanks. And then we continue south, to Canada, to Calgary, to arrive to Seattle. And we have snow in Calgary, so it was a very bad day. And on the highway, big trucks, they don't understand that the Porsche was moving like this, and the guy is behind you, with cruise control. He said, he's not going more fast. I like to drive fast, but not with the snow on my 928. And people say, go to Seattle. When you arrive at Seattle, you are okay, because there is never snow in Seattle. It's a good place. All the coast is fantastic, to Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego. We went to the border of Mexico, and turn around, but I see the gates, Mexico border. But okay, we just came back to San Diego. And then we visited a lot, through Monument Valley, Grand Canyon, Houston, Dallas, New Orleans, then Miami, then Key West. In the same day, we say, okay, what we do? Shall we go to Key West? Of course, in the day. We start from Miami, go to Key West, spend some time in Key West, back to Miami, and after 2 or 3 days, Washington and New York. So it was amazing. We drove 18,000 kilometers, on the US part, it's more than a Russian part. I stopped my job to do this trip, so I have also planning to respect, more or less. But we were totally free.
I'm curious where you encountered the worst drivers in all of your travels.
Most dangerous should be probably in Russia. When you drive on this Trans-Siberian road, most of the time it's only 2 ways, two lines with trucks. The guys don't drink so much Coca-Cola, I think, and you see accidents a lot,
Yeah.
It's very risky. But in Iran, for example, it's amazing when you are in the big cities, people are maybe everywhere, 5 centimeters everywhere from your cars, with a ring every time, it's very noisy. But after 1 or 2 days, you are more comfortable. It's a surprise when you arrive. And it's up to you to adapt your style, to them, because you have no other shot. If you don't want, you have problems because they push your car, they don't care about that, so you have to drive exactly as they are driving themselves,
Yeah. So New York and then home.
Yes, New York, maybe 4 days in New York. My friend, the boss of the Porsche France, tell me I will arrange something. So we went to a Porsche New York. I think there is 2 or 3 in New York, and put the car, in the lobby in the middle of the other cars for the afternoon. It was a nice moment, and then put the car, in the to the forwarding agent, and they stuff the car in containers. And 1 month later, we find the car, in Le Havre, in France, and back to Paris. So it was the end of the story. And with my tracker spot, all the map was starting from this place de la Concorde in Paris, and we came back at the same place with the car. In between was 35,000 kilometers,
Brilliant. Philippe, I've had such a great time. I love your sense of adventure, and I really appreciate you doing this. Your website is Porsche-928-expedition.com. Link will be in the show notes, and people can check out the pictures. I mean, the pictures of the car at the Arctic Circle and Monument Valley and all of that.
Yeah, we have pictures, and for the first trip, for the second trip, and how the car was prepared also. So it's important if people want to see how we fix the wheel, how we prepare the protection under the car, etc.
Yeah, and the website is in French, but car guys are going to be able to translate that easily. Thank you very much, my friend.
Okay, Maurice. Yes, you too. Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Horsepower Heritage. If you like what you've heard, share it with a friend, leave me 5 stars and a quick review. And you can also support the show at buymeacoffee.com/HP Heritage, and you can pitch in as little as $2. Horsepower Heritage will return on Wednesday, February 9th. Until next time, I'm Maurice Merrick. Thanks for listening.